everybody. Welcome to Exploring with Edna, episode 29. On today's episode, yet again, we have another delay to work on the valve lifters for the Raiders engine. But we have an emergency leak in our Ford Ranger fuel tank over here. This lovely thing is leaking when we are at about a 3/4 of a tank and above. So it's previously been drilled into before, so we just gotta redo some of the patchwork. And for those who are wondering why don't we just replace it, we've tried to locate the right tank for this specific model and the length of the bed and so forth and so on, and you can't exactly get it. It's a 94 Ford Ranger XLT. We tried our best to find a brand new one or replacement aftermarket, just because that would be the most for sure thing, but it's just not happening. So let's show you what we've done already, and then we will continue on. So what we've done already here is, it's not too complicated to get these tanks out. It's just a little bit of awkwardness, really. You gotta disconnect the filler neck from the truck bed itself. As you see here, it's free floating. Then we took out the bed liner, and we took out the 6 bolts holding the bed in. This will lift off eventually here once I get some help. Then we'll be able to take off the connections on top of the fuel tank. It'll be more evident when it's off. And then we could talk about dropping the tank here and then patching it up. So as typical, I usually do things out of order and make it more hard on myself here. So the fuel tank itself, as you can see, is right here. So it spans right before the rear axle, goes all the way right to mid cab, and there's one of the patch holes. This one's holding. This one is a little harder to spot right now, but this is where it's leaking right now. So you sort of see some fresh, clean, smart spots right there. I got the shield, or skid plate, I guess you could call it, at what they'd probably classify it as, detached. But I forgot I needed to be up on ramps to be able to wedge this thing out. This just due to its awkward shape and its brackets. So let's carefully get it up on some ramps here, and at least I could get the shield off, and we still got to get the truck bed off. And that's mainly because all the electrical connections are on top, and unfortunately there's no built-in access panel, nor do I want to cut one in the truck bed for something you hypothetically don't have to do very often. So let's get to it. Alright, slowly. Keep on going. Okay. And stop. And unfortunately, as I said, it's a hole at a specific level, or if I didn't say, it is a hole at a specific level. You see our tank is now leaking, now that it's elevated where I could actually get plates off. So this will increase the fun. Alrighty guys, now that we are secured up on the ramps and the rear tires are not touching the ground, they're on the ramps instead, I did put the wheel chokes in on the front wheels just in case. Always a good emergency thing. Got the bottom skid plate off for the fuel tank. I gotta wait for the assistance here for some extra lifting power to get the truck bed off, which is already all detached as we previously said. Once we could get that off, then just gotta disconnect the electrical on top of the tank and remove the straps. Using a jack, very carefully lower the tank because it's full of fuel. So we got the truck bed off enough to service it. We now have access to our electronic and fluid connections up here. We'll get the filler neck off, we'll get the connections off, and then we'll actually lower the tank and take a look at the actual damage and take off the old patch and put a new patch on. The tank is out. That is the hardest part of this, and reinstallation isn't too bad with the bed lifted, that is. That's the big key right there. You could try to do this without taking the truck bed off, but it is much more of a hassle. We only have maybe about 2 to 3 gallons left in the tank. Got about 10 gallons here in the gas cans. Here's the tank itself. This patch job right here in front of you, that one is actually holding, as you see, no current leak marks. But you come over here, see where it's cleaner. This is the one that's leaking on us. Thought we made it nice and good, but clearly it's leaking. So let's patch it up. So found the failure. We clearly see out of one of the lower holes, that's for me chipping it open, but this is where the 2 out of the 3 holes that were pre-drilled in this from the previous owner's parking location, unfortunately, were drilled. There's 2 here and there's 1 under here. The patchwork seems to have held up for about 5 months on this tank repair, but clearly it's not a long-term fix. So we're gonna try again, and this time using duct tape and another product, but overall I would just say it's the luck of the draw. The original stuff was this JB Weld plastic fuel tank repair kit that included the fiberglass mesh, which you could sort of see the texture of it right here. It did okay. Clearly, only one of them failed, but let's get the other one redone. We have sealed the areas off again. Got a piece of duct tape underneath of it, as you saw in the time lapse, and that's just to keep the glue from falling into there. That should hopefully do it this time. The other one wasn't leaking, but we decided just to reinforce it while we're at it here. Other than that, we got about 6 hours of cure time, and we'll get it reversed and installed back onto the truck here. So it has been a little more than 6 hours at this point. It hasn't been as warm as I'd like today, so it's not as cured as I would like yet, but it's hardened, a little bit soft in spots, but it should harden up the rest of the way. But we're ready to at least get it mounted, because there's not much fuel in this canister right now. It's maybe 1 or 2 gallons, but this one, because it's much thinner, is completely hardened. And this extra layer of protection I added, and not that it was leaking like I said before, but because I'm already taking it out again, I might as well add an extra layer of protection. So one of our last ditch efforts here, at least with this sort of repair style on this tank, because we can't really get it. I don't know if you guys have some mysterious link for a 94 Ford Ranger XLT with an extended cab. I'd love to know where I could get a brand new tank. Otherwise, I might be going through a junkyard to get a used one, perhaps. That's sort of my thought right now. So anyways, so I'm gonna put this back together here, and there's not too much to that. I'm gonna slide the tank into place as if this camera was the tank. It'd slide in like so. Then these straps go up and over, along with this one here, and they hold it to various spots on the frame. There's really not much more than that. You got a spot here, got a spot right here, and then there's one right about there where my finger is. But yeah, let's get that in and I'll continue on once that's mounted. The fuel tank's in position. Now I could secure it with the straps, but the way I have to jack it up there, I'm going to be able to get that first initial strap under the extended cab on, and once that's secured, I could go for the last one once I could release the jack, because I can't push that through the jack. Fuel tank's in. As you can see, sort of right down here. I know it's a terrible angle, apologize, but that's repair number 1, and as you can see, you can't really repair this without taking it out because there's a big old piece of the frame in the way. And sort of, maybe if that helps, I don't know. The second repair, of course, is the easier one to get to, and that's the one that wasn't leaking. So now that we're mounted, we just want to connect our evaporation line. I believe that's what they would call it, but don't quote me on it. Just wiggle that guy on. Then we got our connection for the fuel pump. It should just snap down in place. And the clip snapped on. That's all the connections except for the filler neck, which is right here, of course. I'm not too worried about this right now. I just mainly want to confirm the electrical connections are okay. So here we go. We're going to power up and test gauges and make sure we're pumping fuel. Alright, well, we're powered on at least. Obviously we got fuel going, otherwise we'd be dying out here. Alrighty. We got the lovely skid plate back on. So far so good. We added about 4 gallons of gas so that it registered on the gas gauge about 1/8 of a tank full, because it was just slightly soft still in the center. We wanted to give a little bit more time for that to strengthen. But otherwise, plates on. Just going to get the bed back on, and we should be done with the repair today. Oh, and of course the filler neck. That's a helpful thing. We are back together. The truck bed is secured back down to the frame. No leaks so far in the gas tank, which is a great sign. But we are going to keep it at 1/8 of a tank at least for another 24 hours as a precaution. We've got all the lovely bolts lined up here, all 6 of them. Our lights are tested good. Always double check where connections are re-engaged and working. Don't want to get pulled over for some stupid light violation or something like that. The last thing I'm not really going to show, but you know, it's simply our bed liner. We're going to get that put back in. Other than that, there's really not much else to show. I know it's a really quick and simple thing, but just cleaning, slathering, some sealant on the side of the plastic tape, usually using some sort of tape or in some cases with the JB Weld repair, the fiberglass mesh, to help keep the glue just from seeping into the tank, and that just sort of lets it cure. And that should hopefully take care of it. I hope to not have to fix it again. This will conclude episode 29, and hopefully one of these times we'll actually get to the repair I want to do for the noise in the Raider, but for now we had to get our daily driver fixed. Y'all have a good day and enjoy the rest of our night. Bye.